Hello everyone, my name is Jen and this is Mandy and welcome to the Book Refuge. You guys will have to indulge me. This was one of my Christmas presents and this is Mandy the Mandrake. Yes, I named her that. I was given a Harry Potter Squishmallow for Christmas. And she's a little mandrake. Look it. And I'm kind of obsessed with her right now. So I just wanted her to be with me while I do my weekly wrap up today. And I'm in love with her. She's adorable. So I don't care. You're never too old for a new toy. And it was so kind of my friends to give her to me. They gifted me, one of my friends actually, they gifted me another book nook to do. Which I have actually started already on my day off yesterday. I took a full day off yesterday and didn't do anything work related. And it's the coolest thing, but they also got me this toy because they were like, it just looked like you, or not looked like me, but like it was meant for you. And I was like, oh, thank you. So yeah, it was a wonderful holiday. I hope you guys had that. And I'm really looking forward to the new year. I really am. I'm very excited. On Tuesday, I'll be having my 2025 reading goals come out. And my goal, one of the goals for my goal is by the end of this coming week to have my top 10 list done. I need to reread 3 of my 6-star reads, and then I think I'll be ready to do that video. And I'm so excited. I never quite know what my favorite one's going to be till I do my rereads anyway, though this year I have a better idea than most, and I think some of you might know which one will be my favorite, but I'm very excited to see how it goes. So we're going to go over my favorites today. We're going to go over the books I read and my notes right here. Let me bring this over here so that I stop staring at the side of my neck. I don't love the side of my neck. You can say right here, little one. There you go. So, the first book that I finished was Duke of Lust by Mariah Stone. So this one is coming out, I believe it's January 7th. And I had an ALC of this one from Must Love Audio. And this is book 2 in the 7 Dukes of Sin, okay? So this one was Lucian, who is the Duke of Lust, L-U-H-S-T, right? Duke of Lust, and Chastity, who is the younger sister of Dorian from book 1, right? And so this is the one where all of their names are a different vice and their heroines are a different virtue. At least they have been so far, right? The first one was Wrath, and then Patience was his heroine. And this one is Lust, and his heroine is Chastity. So yes, I said it's quite cheesy, but so far I'm liking how they're having that manifest and everything. And we'll see. I'm more even intrigued about how like envy and pride and what were the other names? They have some really interesting names. They're not all quite as perfect. Irreverence is the one for like sloth. So there's going to be some good ones in here. I'm excited about that. And this one was good because it's a best friend's sister, and so Lucian and Chastity have actually known each other most of their lives, and Lucian and Dorian are the closest of all of the Dukes of Sin, because they basically grew up together. And Lucian, he is someone who, you know, he's all about the begging the ladies type of life, and it's very interesting because his kind of trauma doesn't come from like his parents being awful or anything. But he actually had an uncle that he loved a lot who died of syphilis. And he's taken that to mean that, I don't know, that his vice is basically going to kill him one day and there's no hope for that. I don't know. It certainly taught him to use condoms, so there's that. But it was just kind of interesting. This one, But Chastity, I found very interesting. So she is very much into like the medical side of things. And in the beginning, we actually find her volunteering at this kind of like free clinic. And she volunteers to help out this doctor who runs it. And in exchange of like being his nurse there, she gets to kind of run experiments. And she's not doing like any creepy experiments or anything. She's testing new ways to be more hygienic during, like, if there are small surgeries he does. Surgery would still be very dangerous in this time period. But trying new ways of sanitizing things, seeing if that makes things better. So just starting to kind of look into that. And she, of course, isn't being welcomed by the, you know, greater society as a whole because she's a woman looking into this. And her father actually was very, like, not into it and forbade her from doing it a lot. And we learn about this a lot too in the first book because that's something that Dorian is supportive of her doing this. So anyway, this is very much too, she's in kind of like the ugly duckling situation, and somehow or another, there is a house party happening at Pride's estate. So we go stay at his place, and it's, you know, one of those like 30-day house parties. And Lucian and Chastity end up making a bet, and the bet ends up being that he will not have sex or self-please himself for 30 days. And in exchange, and she has to try to get a marriage proposal in those 30 days. She doesn't want to marry anyone, but she's going to try to get someone to propose to her. And in exchange, if he wins, then she has to spend a whole night alone with him. And if she wins, he will help her get like a lab set up, basically. And they can both win this bet. It's that type of bet. Like, the other one doesn't have to lose. They can both succeed and both win. But anyway, so yeah, this ends up being he kind of helps her get like a makeover there. And there are other men that she is learning how to talk to and all these things. So again, it's kind of an ugly duckling thing. And she's very determined to do this. So this one, it was just okay. The series isn't anything groundbreaking, but this book itself, though, I really liked Lucian, the character, a lot. I liked Chastity a lot. I didn't really care for the bet or the scenario is the thing. So to me, that's where this story was the weakest, because getting them into the scenario was very strange. But what I loved is, for this being Lust's book, you'd assume that this one would up the spice, or this one would up all of those things. But because of the bet, it ends up being a lot about her pleasure. But still, we don't do a ton of that either. It is him realizing that he doesn't only have to be wanted for his body. He kind of has thought that is his only use. Well, that's not been his only use to his friends. His friends care about him as he is. So that was really beautiful. And this ends up being a very like slow burn between the two of them. And this may not like excite everyone about it, but there's not even a full love scene between them until the very end of this. And I liked that. There was other things that happened between them for sure. But these two are friends. And like, they don't want to risk that. It's also, Lucian would be risking like the rules of the group of the Dukes of Sin too is to never go after each other's like siblings. So he's going to have to deal with Wrath finding out, you know, might not be great to piss off the Duke of Wrath, right? And that's all he's wanted too, is to belong to a group as well. So there's a lot on the line for them, but this ended up being pretty good to me. Like I liked it probably a little more than the first one. And I thought the issues that he had to work through, though I didn't fully understand like what put them there, I liked how we worked out of it, if that makes sense. So this was a 4-star for me. Of course, wonderful performance by Shane East and Justine Eyre. Magnificent. This was dual narration. And it was fantastic. So very slow burn. Content warnings, as I said, for sexual disease that led to death. Okay. Then I read an arc of Filthy Savage. This one comes out, I believe, on the 8th of January. And this will be the book 4 in the book 3 in the Savage King series by Lillian Harris. And this one was intense, as her books usually are. Over the top, absolutely. and a bit drawn out as well. Now, this one is about Fionn, who is one of the sons of Patrick, right? And Amara. And in the beginning of this story, Amara and her current boyfriend are at a hotel, and they're there for one of his friends' weddings, I think. And we see right away that he's such an asshole, and he's really being kind of emotionally abusive to her and rude. And he has been cheating on her, and she's just found out. And Fionn, sorry, it looks like it'd be Finn, but she does provide pronunciation guides, which is great. So before I ever read the book, I was like saying the name right from previous books, because it's spelled Fionn and it's Irish, and so it's Fionn, like Fionn. So that's why I'm saying that. Anyway, and he overhears how she's being treated, and he kind of steps in and like rescues her from it. So he's also there for a wedding of his sister. It's one of the girls' weddings, and he ends up like, you can come stay at my suite with me, because she can't stay where her boyfriend was. Come stay at my suite with me and come to this wedding with me as my date. And so they end up having this kind of a whirlwind thing where she thinks he only rescued her because he felt pity for her because she's a plumper girl and she's really plain and he can't possibly want me. But he is very attracted to her, but she's 19 and I think he's like in his 30s, and he's like, I don't want to be predatory to this girl who I like rescued from a weak moment. But they go to the wedding together and they do end up sleeping together. And what does she do? She runs away the next day. Because one other thing I should say, she lies about what her name is when he like rescues her. And a couple things with this, like I didn't have a problem with her doing that, because though he is rescuing her, she doesn't know who this man is. And he's kind of scary looking, even though he's sexy too. So she uses her friend's name instead, which her name is Amara and her friend's name is Emily. So it's not like too far apart, but she goes by Emily for this day that she's with him. And so they hook up and she leaves, and you can probably guess, this is a secret baby. But it does follow my rules of secret baby. So she does like know his name, but she's 19. She has no idea how to find him or where he lived or where to even start looking. And she gave him a wrong name. So we skip ahead 4 years basically. And she has a cute little girl and is trying to make it on her own. And he's actually been looking for her for these years, but he couldn't find her. He literally looked up every woman with her name in the city where she said she lived and couldn't find her because that wasn't her name. So yeah, couldn't find her. But all these years later, there's actually an incident that happens at, I believe, a hotel or a building that she's cleaning at. So that's what she's doing, is she's a cleaner. And she witnesses him offing someone. You know, he does work for the mob, right? And she sees something she shouldn't, and she makes a run for it. And him and his, like, they track her down, and he immediately recognizes her. And he's like, oh my God, this is her. Oh my word. And so he basically, like, I think he follows her to her home, because either way, he ends up, yes, he does find out where she lives, because he finds out who the staff is who works there and where she lives, and he goes there, and he's going there to threaten her. Like, he's not going to kill a woman. But she doesn't know that, because she sees this beautiful man that she is the father of her child. Maybe. That's the other thing, too, I should have mentioned. It isn't 100% that this is Fionn's baby anyway, because she was still sleeping with her boyfriend when she found out he was cheating on her. So it's one of those where it's like the chances that it's Fionn or the guy that she was having regular sex with, you know, and she doesn't know where that guy is, you know. But her, you know, now ex-boyfriend didn't give two shits about the kid anyway. So she was on her own either way with this kid. But anyway, so he shows up there and he realizes it's her, and he does some quick thinking, and he basically traps her into a marriage with him. Again, kind of lying to him because they weren't going to kill her. He was there to scare her into being quiet, but they weren't like too worried about this woman anyway. He was just going there to scare her, and it's her. So he tells her that his people would have to kill her. And then he discovers she has a child there. And I don't want to keep like spoiling too much, but this is the setup of the story, right? And he immediately loves this little girl too. And he doesn't know that she's his, right? Doesn't know either way. But he's like, but she's yours either way. And so I'm going to be her daddy either way. So then it becomes typical Lillian Harris. Hero, he's absolutely obsessed. This is a forced marriage because he's like, oh, well, I'd have to kill you if you don't marry me, which again. And now she's forced into a mob life, which is going to be interesting. So that is the setup of this one. So as I said, this has some things I don't love in it, but it does follow my rules of a secret baby being like, how would she get in touch with him? It could have been her boyfriend's baby, as well as once she finds out who this guy is, he's a member of the mafia, which she didn't know before they spent the night together. So it follows all my rules. What is a bit much about this book, not to like nitpick it to death, but the reason this one isn't higher than it is, I did give this one 4 stars. Still pretty good, pretty solid. It's 3.5 on the spice scale, is that Lillian Harris doesn't do subtlety. Every revelation, every situation is a hammer blow to your face of it. And that can be too much. Like, I want an over-the-top hero, but he immediately goes to the most extreme version of everything right away. It's the most extreme thing. Like, he kisses her once, I'm keeping you forever. And I know, we think we like that. But when a hero is that way about the heroine, I like it. When he's that way about everything, it's a lot. I'm like, I would like you to strategize a bit more. Okay, you are very high up in the mafia. You're the son of the head of it. Like, think things through just a little bit more. Like, I would like that. And also, the heroines are always being abused by an ex in these. Always being abused by an ex in like, that treats them like the smallest piece of garbage on the floor ever. And it's like, why was this person ever putting up with it? And it's in every book of hers. It really is. Like, show me one of these heroines that had anything functioning going on in their lives beforehand, you know? And it just makes it like, oh, this poor girl has to be rescued by this guy. And again, that can work in a situation. It's fine. But I've read now 8 books by this author. That's the same thing every time. Like, it gets a bit draining when it's the same reason why I'm not reading Jagger Cole right now, right? He was that guy for me in 2023 that I loved how over the top his characters were for the first 2-3 books, but that is the only character he writes. He writes one character. They are intense, over the top, bit of a psychopath, and they're into BDSM, every single one of them, okay? Same here. Guess what? Fionn also likes BDSM and takes her to a sex club that we've been to before. Like, they're all the same. So it's 4-star, 3.5 on the spice scale. If that's the only one by this author that you read, it's a good one. And I could understand why people would maybe like it even more because it's a strong one as it is. But it's okay. There were things to love, like how he was with the girl, how he rescued her in the beginning. But it was also very long. And yeah, it was extremely long. There was so much drawn out stuff in that. It could have been 100 pages less. Like, I'm not even joking. That book was over 400 pages. It could have been 100 pages less. So yeah. Okay, moving on. I had one of my 6-star rereads. I reread In the Details by Julia Wolf. So I don't have too much to say about this one because this will be in my top 10 and we'll talk about it in depth there. But this book I read originally back in, when did this one come out? This summer is when this one came out because that's when I was reading it, yeah. And this is Jake and Clara. They are one-night stand peeps. Well, they've had more than one night stand, but they're these strangers who hook up with each other at a biker bar. And then they discover that their families are going to be doing business together. They're both single parents. They're extremely attracted to each other, and it's really hard for them to stay away. Clara has a lot of trust issues. She has an ex-husband who really did her dirty, and not in an abusive aspect, in a like, he was just a psycho in other ways. And Jake has some commitment issues too. So yeah, I adore them. This held up fantastically, and we'll see where it fits in my top 10. We'll see. Will I have 2 Julia Wolfs in a row of being my favorite books? We'll see. We'll see. Okay, then I had an arc of The Wild Wolf's Rejected Mate by Kate C. Wells. This did come out already. This one came out the day after Christmas, so you can go and snag this one right now. This was book 5 in the 5 Packs series. This is an entire series of rejected mates, and I've had my ups and downs with this series. I was okay with the first one. I really liked the second one, and then the last 2 have just been kind of painful to read because this is a painful series, and that is often a thing I bring up when I talk about Kate C. Wells, is she really loves to wring you through the angst grinder, okay? She really fucks with you and puts you in these really painful places. So she's not someone that's great to read if like PTSD or anxiety or past pain is a trigger for you, because that's always coming, right? And they're always a rejected mate. So there's going to be something that fucked it up for these 2. Now, to be honest, I don't remember as much about the other packs right now. It's been a long time. Yeah, this series is very spread out. It's very spread out. And so I remembered some of the characters who popped up, but I didn't remember our heroine very well. And she's a friend. So Annie is the heroine, and she's a friend of the heroine from the first book, which is Killian, and I can't remember the heroine of that one, but the disabled heroine in there, she has a really bad limp, and he thinks that she's really weak. The Tyrant Alpha's rejected mate is the first one, but she is mates with the alpha of the last pack, or the Lost Pack. It's called different things, and when he first makes himself known to her when she's going into heat, it's a very traumatic experience. She has a lot of trauma from her past. There were some very damaging things that the women in this pack went through. And so she is basically catatonic when they have their first thing together. And he is feeling rejected by her, that she's making him feel like a rapist, that she's making him feel awful when their wolves know that they're supposed to be together. And I really loved more look into the wolves, the inner being of the wolf, and them being as one, and when they're divided, like how bad that is. And that's what a lot of the series has been about too, is coming into harmony with your wolf, which I think is a great allegory for werewolf stories. Anyway, it's great. But anyway, he really resents that she makes him feel like the bad guy. And so after their kind of botched mating, he rejects her and he says some really hurtful things. Now they're both, I think, almost like barely past being teenagers during this first situation. And he says some hurtful things because he feels hurt that he doesn't understand where she's coming from or why she's cowering from him and making him feel like an abuser. And like his wolf is trying to, like they're supposed to mate and not together and like be together, and he is feeling her fear, which it says it like tastes in your mouth, just this fear, and it's making him feel like he's so bad. And so he really says some mean things and pushes her away. And then we skip ahead a few years now. So now there's a point where, and I don't remember exactly what happens here, but he ends up carrying her in wolf form. She has a small wolf. He carries her back to his pack to care for her for a while. And she's very panicked and very like scared, but her wolf has kind of had enough of this. And her wolf is very accepting of what's happening. Her wolf really likes Justice. Justice is the name of the hero. Her wolf really likes some of his pack members. And so her wolf has come forward to kind of like protect her and is taking control. And when she finally when the wolf cedes control back to her, she agrees to stay for a little bit to get to know him. And he promises he'll take her home when she wants to, but he asks her to stay for a little bit. And so then this story is about her getting to know his pack. And I will tell you, I love his pack. don't fully remember everything in previous books, but I can tell you that this is my favorite pack because we're seeing what it's like when they haven't been tainted as much by fear or by bad things happening. They're very in tune with their wolves. They can do partial shifts. The babies can shift. There are many children. The women are more uplifted than the men are. It's fascinating. So I loved that. I love these characters. They were so sweet together, and it was really beautiful watching it. But again, you're going to start with a lot of angst, and you're like, girl, just give them a chance. So yeah, I gave this one 4 stars, and it was a 2 on the spice scale. And it does have trigger warnings for a very uncomfortable first sexual experience, trauma, rejection, and violence. So it's a very angsty story. Okay, then there was The Proposal Play by Lauren Blakely. This one comes out, I think, also January 7th, and I had an ALC and ARC of this one, and I got this one from the author. So this one was narrated by Vanessa Edwin and Robert Hatchett. Love this pairing. They did this in duet narration, which is great. Lauren Blakely always has such wonderful audiobooks. Like, that's the best way to experience her books, in my opinion. And this one is a friends to lovers, married in Vegas story. So Maeve and Asher, so he plays football, or not football, he plays hockey with her brother, but they've actually been friends for, I think, almost 10 years. And they actually met in a grief support group. So Maeve and her brother went to this grief support group, and that's how they met Asher. And all 3 of them been friends. Maeve and Asher are almost best friends. He's best friends with her brother. They're a tight group. Asher has 2 dads, but he was in this grief support group because his high school girlfriend had died. And so he was actually leading this support group at like college, basically. And so that's really cool. Now, the beginning of this book, Maeve and Asher are at the wedding of her brother. And we see this moment in like the prequel where like he's realizing that he's into her. And so he has this moment of being like, wow, I'm going to have to suppress that because I don't want to ruin anything. And then we skip forward to, I think it's like a year or 2 later, or a few years later, and she's getting a job with his, where's she getting a job? Yeah, she gets a job, she's an artist. There we go. She's an artist, and she gets a job with his hockey team to like paint a mural. And anyway, there's a bachelor auction, and she says date to the bachelor auction, which is funny because that. And they overhear her in the bathroom. She overhears this woman saying how she's going to buy him in the auction and then like use his name to help launch her like social media brand or whatever. And that really pisses Maeve off that she's going to use her friend that way. So her and her brother come up with a scheme where her brother like donates the money and she buys Asher. So she ends up buying Asher for a whole bunch of money. It's all going to charity, so it's great. And the thing is, though, is that each bachelor came with a date package that you're bidding on. And so she actually she wins him and a weekend in Vegas. And they have to kind of go on the trip because it's for publicity and for the charity and everything. So they end up going on this. And what happens? They end up getting married in Vegas. And as we've seen a few times in other stories like this, then when they get back, they're planning to get annulled. But people have all found out that they got married, and they can't just get a divorce right away because it would look bad, that type of thing. And she ends up getting more job offers because her name is now connected with his, and he's seen as a bit more respectable by being paired with her. So then they have to stay fake married for that. And I gotta say, I really loved this one because this was one of the best friends to lovers books that I've read in a long time. And the way it just used that trope and how well they know each other, how deep their connection is. And yes, a few too many times they're like, well, we're going to ruin our friendship. I know that is the thing in Friends to Lovers. I know that that's the thing. But you don't have to tell me over and over and over and over and over again. Every time they kiss, they're like, oh, I'm going to ruin our friendship. Like every single time, that got a little bit grating. Like we know what the stakes are. We know how close they are. We know we don't want them to mess it up. But they know each other so well. Like they weren't going to ruin anything. They're not going to ruin anything. So just like say it and then stop saying it because it's exhausting. Okay. I know I'm getting a bit, but I'm like, come on. At some point, that's what I was feeling. So, but either way, I really liked it. And they were so cute together. The way that they know each other, the way that they support each other was wonderful. So I gave this one 5 stars. It's a 3.5 on the spice scale. There's grief, anxiety, a bit of OCD. There's no third act breakup in here. There's just a very beautiful friendship that turns into more. And it was great. A little sexy, a little fun. It was great. And then the last book that I finished is my Patreon book of the month. So I won't be reviewing that here. You can check out my Patreon if you would like to know what I thought of this book. I will tell you, it's going to be a sassy little review. So maybe you won't want to miss it over there. If you get a 7-week trial membership, you'll be able to watch all of my videos as well as decide if you want to stick around to help me out in 2024 or 2025. I would really appreciate it. And remember, don't forget to sign up for the giveaways. You have through December 31st to sign up for all of them and hopefully win something. So thank you so much for watching this. I hope you had a wonderful 2024 and we'll see you next year. It's coming for you. It's coming. Bye, guys.